Yeah, I'm excited for this too. I really appreciate your natalism work that you guys do. So,
Well, and we really appreciate the work you do, man. You're on at a perfect time. Like, we're probably going to run your interviews with us. Like, usually it's months for us to run these. Now we're like, oh, we got it. Like,
cool.
Yeah, we got to run it with all this election stuff that's going on. This is wild. You were saying that you had disagreed with the betting odds recently.
Yes. I had a post about why Biden won't drop out. And I had all this good reasoning, but the betting odds said he would, and he did. So the lesson is to listen to the betting odds, not any one analyst.
Oh, I'd love to hear why you thought he wouldn't drop out.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't in his interest. If he wanted to, he could have gone to the convention and got the nomination.
Yes, thank you. That's what I kept telling everyone. I was like, he's not, like all the way up through Saturday. It was like, he's not going to drop out. No one can technically force him to drop out. And he's no reason to want to do. Why would he do it? No one can stop him. He's not going to drop out. So I'm with you on that.
And you also have the problem that Jill hates Kamala. And this is like publicly. And if she's making the decisions for Biden, she definitely wouldn't want him to drop out if she was a presumptive nominee.
Yeah. And it seemed like there was no way for them to truly force him out either. But I think I underestimated how much kind of soft power there is in the Democratic Party with Obama and Pelosi really running the show. They coordinated.
Like, I don't know, man. They tried everything. I feel like they literally tried everything. Like, people drove out to his house, George Clooney, like they threw everything at him. And I think ultimately, and maybe in the end, because donations started drying up, that was it, just like we're
I think it was probably donors that got him out.
So you'd think if you can make it to the convention, the donors would, who else are they going to donate to?
Yeah.
They don't like Trump. So, but clearly he felt the pressure and he had COVID and a lot of things conspired and he dropped out.
Yeah.
So the bettors were not surprised. They had this at like 70% a couple days before he dropped out.
Wow.
So they were right. I lost money betting on the other side, but
he got COVID. We'll see if there was any, there was a lot of people interested in something like that happening to him. I was joking. There was a thing about Trump's assassination and people were like, well, Republicans would be cheering too if Biden was assassinated. And I was like, not a single Republican I have ever met would be cheering if Biden was assassinated. They love
it's a disappointing development for Republicans that Biden is no longer running. They were thrilled with Biden running.
Yeah. Now the polls have Kamala Harris up by or losing by 1 point less than Biden was losing by. So we'll see how that goes for them. The betting odds. Yeah, the betting odds, it's interesting because you can look at these conditional odds. So you say, if this person's nominated, what are their odds of winning? Mm-hmm. And Biden's odds were always around 30%. Kamala Harris's were around 37%. So she's slightly more electable, but not much more electable.
Oh, God. Okay, so we have been talking generally right now. I'm going to introduce you. To anyone who is wondering why the election betting numbers are a bit off in this, it is because this was filmed around a week ago. And so sorry about that. It just took me a while to process it. But so people who don't know Maxim Lott, I grew up on your stuff every election cycle, loading, what's the URL here? Electionbettingodds.com. And then you had your own website because it is, historically speaking, the most accurate predictor of who's going to win an election cycle. And I'd love it if you could talk a little bit about why it's such an accurate predictor of who's going to win and its advantages over traditional polling.
Yeah, absolutely. And great to be here with you guys. I love your natalism work. So I created the site in 2015 and we've tracked hundreds of races since then. And you can graph it out to see how accurate it is. And what we find is that in general, if the markets say there's a 20% chance that someone's going to win a race, that actually happens about 20% of the time. So it's not exactly perfect. You can see the lines, they almost match up. But basically, you can go to electionbettingodds.com, click track record, and it'll show you this. And it's been very accurate. It's the single best predictor. If you just want, tell me quickly who's going to win, this is the best thing to go to.
So you're sort of the granddaddy of betting odds stuff, and the field has undergone, we met you at Manifest, I think an enormous evolution in the past probably decade or so. Can you talk a little bit about how prediction markets have evolved over the course of your life?
Sure. And I don't know if it's quite accurate to say I'm the granddaddy. You know, there are people like Robin Hanson who might fit that role better.
Oh yeah, he goes to all this stuff. I guess for the general, for me, you were my first
got it.
into this stuff.
Yeah.
You made it accessible in a topic that I was passionate about.
Right.
Yeah.
For popularizing it. I think election betting odds got more than 25 million unique views. So hopefully that's made a difference.
Half of those were me.
And yeah, so prediction markets, it has changed a lot over the years. I first started looking at these in 2007. And at that time, there was one big site. It was based in Ireland called intrade.com. And it was great. And people traded there and they accurately predicted things. They were shut down mostly by the US government. First, their founder died climbing Mount Everest, which is tragic. But then the government said, hey, you're taking American customers and you're not registered with our government. So they sued them and they shut down immediately after that. So there were a couple years then where there was really almost no prediction markets. The best thing was Betfair, which was this UK-based place where people bet 99% of it, people are betting on sports there, and it's legal there. Yeah. But they had this 1%, where they were betting on elections. And it was annoying for me as a reporter because we would want to report on these odds on the Stossel show on Fox News. And the Betfair site, because it's these English gamblers there, the odds are really hard to read. It's like, 30 over 4.5. And so I'd have to manually convert all these in an Excel sheet to like 55%. And then eventually I figured, I can automate this and then I can put it on a website. So that's how election betting odds started. And since then, there have been a lot more entrants into the market, like
before we go further, who were you working for? You were at Fox, you said?
Yeah, Fox News. I was working for John Stossel. So he's a big prediction market guy too, and helped popularize the site.
Okay, and so then what happened? So your site goes live because now, there's whole conferences around betting odds and stuff like that. And there's like different ways of measuring them than there were historically, because it's not like sports betting like it was historically. Now it's like status hierarchy games.
Interesting. Yeah, well, people are betting on all sorts of things now. People are betting on the Oscars, on foreign elections. Yeah, Matt Manifold has a lot of creative markets. But yeah, it's really a blooming area. You had...
Well, and you were talking about conditional markets as well. Where do you see those coming up?
Yeah, so on our site, what we do, we use the implied odds. So if you have people betting on the nomination and on who's going to win, you can divide them and get a pretty accurate estimate. Manifold, which is still play money for now, is trying out literally just saying, okay, bet if Kamala Harris is the nominee, how likely is she to win the general election? So that's this conditional odds. It means if something, then what's the odds? And that helps you make decisions in life. So if you're a Democratic voter, you want to know that Gavin Newsom, if he's the nominee, it's close to 60% that he'll win. But if it's Harris, it's 37%. So that's pretty important information that the bettors tell us.
No, I did not know. Now let's talk about some of the existing odds right now. So they have Harris at like what percent are you looking at? Like what are the interesting things you're seeing in the betting odds right now?
Yeah, so Trump is favored over Harris by about 2-1. So he's a big lead, but she could definitely win. Yeah, it's a little less than 2-1 right now. And the state map, the old blue wall, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, they all lean in Trump's column right now.
I'm surprised by Florida, which has Trump at 92.5% to win.
Yeah. Used to be a swing state 4 years ago, but it's deep red now. There's no chance of Biden winning.
Trump's a Florida man,
He is now, officially, yeah.
That is fascinating. What do you think has changed there? Like, what are your sort of calculations going into this? What would you be doing if you were a Democrat right now in terms of a VP candidate, et cetera?
Yeah, well, I'm in Florida right now, actually. And it seems like DeSantis made a big difference there in terms of having a COVID response that was so diametrically different from New York, et cetera. People said this is the alternate model. Pretty much everyone here liked that alternate model. Yeah. And so I think people shifted their politics there.
Oh, so you think that he's literally shifted Democrats to believe that the Republicans work?
In Florida, I think, that's happened. That's why it's deep red on the election betting odds map.
Well, I think it also shows how unpopular Harris is that DeSantis is predicted to win, and she's at only 1/3 odds.
Trump is, yeah. And yeah, it does show that if the Democrats did run a normal candidate like Newsom or Whitmer, the bettors think that that candidate would win, even though the polls currently have them down a lot. That's likely just because they don't have name recognition. So the bettors are forecasting that. And that's why bettors are better than just looking at polls, because they model all sorts of things.
So what do you think the odds are of a contested convention these days?
They're low. It looks like Kamala Harris has wrapped it up. She's at 87% to get the nomination. And Pelosi just endorsed her, so I think that's right.
The Democratic voters are not going to like this. It's actually been pretty interesting from our perspective. We're going to fill in an episode on this, is watching the Democratic commentators' response to the Kamala Harris candidacy. That's just like holistically positive and doesn't even include the plausibility of changing her for a different candidate, which I think is going to really bite them in the butt.
You know, it's really interesting because it reminds you of what they were doing with Biden 1 year ago, 2 years ago. It's like, oh, he's not senile. It's a conspiracy theory. And then, same thing with Harris. As soon as she starts going off on her maniacal laugh or the future of tomorrow is what tomorrow is rants.
I love that so much. Her catchphrases are
I've got to add the SNL skit about it was a Daily Show skit about that where she has her like a guru speechwriter
advisor
who like throws words in the sand or something.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time. Right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Seems like maybe it's a small issue, it's a big issue. You need to get to go, and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
She's come so far since our first session. My name is Dahlia Rose Hibiscus, and I am Vice President Kamala Harris's Holistic Thought Advisor. I lead the Vice President on not so much sentences as idea voyages. It's a process I call speaking without thinking.
That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see, and because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
The first thing I do is cut out all the words individually, and then I take those words to my word cave. That's where I wait to learn what order the universe wants them to be in. Have vibrations. The feeling they give you is so much more powerful than what they mean.
We have the ability to see what can be, unburdened by what has been, and then to make the possible actually happen.
Hi, I'm Oliver Bartholomew, and I'm 16.5 years old, and I'm the speechwriter for Kamala Harris. Since I was little, I liked words. Writing words is fun, so I made writing words my job.
Space is exciting. Space, it affects us all, and it connects us all.
It's not all fun, though. Sometimes I have to write about bad stuff, like war.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
Once I thought it would be neat if Kamala wore a blue suit and told people she was wearing it, because I like blue.
I'm a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
I can't take all the credit, though. Me and Mr. Kamala are a team, but she kind of is crazy or something. And she kind of scares me. And you can't fake that kind of influence. You're either born with it, or you're either not.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
Well, so I have a broader question about betting rather than polling for accurate election data. I'm running for state rep. No one in the political sphere, among people running for office, PACs, etc., discuss betting odds when they're looking at things. They're like, oh, well, what does the polling say? What, you know, like, oh, you should run a poll. And I think a lot of that's because they're very incestuous. Like there's a lot of like, oh, well, everyone hires each other's companies. And this is almost like an MLM scheme. Like people are just trying to get politicians to come in and raise money so that everyone can just hire the same people and keep the industry running. But I'm just so confused as to why the discussion hasn't already shifted to looking only at betting odds, because it's just, one, it's way cheaper. Two, it's way more accurate. It's very confusing. Where are you seeing things going in terms of adoption? Because I think that the media is starting to look at it more and cover betting odds more, but it's very lumpy in terms of like the establishment in the political realm, like actual operatives, actual donors making decisions based on betting odds rather than polling, which is bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing to notice is that bettors do need polls. So we're never going to 100% switch, but they need to have some basis for what's going on. And then, but the other thing, why don't the political class look at these betting odds, which are better than just polls?
Right.
And Robin Hanson, brilliant guy who actually kind of coined this prediction market idea, he's thought a lot about this. And I think the reason that he's come up with is that decision makers don't like their power being taken away. So if you're a political decision maker, you can say, oh, this poll, you know, it's up 12% among Black Americans and down 4%, you know, and therefore we should do this. If it's just the betting odds saying, oh, you should pick Newsom, they lose their power to weigh in. And it's just, okay, this is what it was. You know, you didn't really need me to tell you that. You could have looked at the betting odds. So that might be a reason for the slow uptake among political consultants. The good news is, yeah, the media seems to be picking up on it more and more. Nate Silver is citing them all the time now. I do think they played some slight role in the Biden stepping down. Like, the fact that they had his stepping down at such high odds, Nate Silver, very widely read, was citing that a lot. I think that may have made some difference, or self-reinforcing cycle there.
Yeah. I mean, I've often thought if we were running for a slightly higher position than the one you're running for, Simone, I'd put big bets on myself, then use that to raise money from donors. Hey, look at how high up in the odds I am.
Can't you see the odds?
Fewer people bet on the local stuff.
And this is why the CFTC wants to ban them. It might be a good segue to that. But
again, let's talk about the battle about banning or unbanning. Like, what's the public utility of these systems?
Yeah, I mean, the public utility is huge. Like, you know, if you're a voter, it tells you who's most electable. If you have a business and you're going to be regulated out of business by one president, but not the other, that's really important to know, to plan for. So the public utility, I think, and also just intellectually interesting. And all of us are spending many hours following the news. Why not make it efficient? I know you can get all that information by looking at the odds in minutes. So public utility is huge. The government regulators don't care that much, is the latest from them.
So they've been disinterested recently, or have you seen interest?
Oh, well, they're planning on banning it. So a couple years.
What's the argument for that?
So a couple months ago, they put together this formal proposal of regulation, which would ban political betting in the US, and also betting on Oscar winners, all this stuff. So So
what's the logic for banning Oscar winner betting?
Yeah, and we have sports betting is now pervasive here. It's so odd to me that we've now seen this giant rollout of sports betting in the US, and yet now we're seeing suppression of the cool, like the substantive. I don't know why I'm saying it's substantive betting, but I don't know. I just feel like, you know, political.
Hold on, I want to hear his answer.
No, it is more substantive than, you know, blackjack. So why they say manipulation, like we were joking about earlier. Yeah. But in practice, you know, that's pretty hard to do. Like, if you have money on Trump, like, you're not actually going to be able to swing the election to Trump, for example. So, and no one person can really do that. So I think it's not a very good reason to ban them. You asked about the Oscar thing. I guess you could have manipulation there too. Some Oscar judge throws it, but it pales in comparison to the benefits, and it just so rarely happens.
I love this complaint, like, oh, politically interested people could manipulate this. And it's like, well, then, so are you punishing the pollsters that manipulated the odds in the Hillary Trump election?
Right. Great point.
No, you're not. So that's not really what you're worried about.
Right. Yeah. People manipulate polls all the time. Like there are politically affiliated consultants that it's well known that they do
it's
that.
Like part of the industry. It's shocking to me that would be the core argument that they're using. But I guess bureaucrats are going to bureaucrat.
It is, yeah. The other reason is that they don't want to, it would be too much work for them to.
Well, which department actually has the ability to make these laws? Because,
CFTC, one of the many alphabet soup agencies out there. Commodity Futures and Trading Commission.
If Trump wins and we get in the administration, we'll push to get those guys, just get rid of them.
If Trump wins, it's interesting. I mean, the election actually has implications for the betting markets. If Trump wins, likely this regulation, even though it's been formally proposed, won't go through. But if Biden wins, it's pretty much on track to do that, though people are trying to stop it by threatening legal action and stuff.
Well, okay, so what do you think of, and this is something we've been talking a lot about on the show recently, is this of the rise of the new right? As somebody who's been like a political watcher for a long time, by that what I mean is there seems to be a shift, as we said, like in the 90s, the big corp interest was Republican and tech entrepreneur was Democrat. And now it's tech entrepreneur, Republican, big corp, Democrat. How do you see this shift playing out in sort of the likelihood of different people winning, et cetera? And in your personal
there's absolutely been this huge shift and realignment going on. And I think J.D. Vance, Trump's new VP pick, really exemplifies that, where he's a populist through and through. You know, he supports tariffs, he supports more redistributive economic things, but then culturally, he's very much like, we need to revive the culture that we used to have, which was healthier. And I think the pick of Vance was actually will be very important in cementing that, whether you agree with it or not, in the future, because he's going to be leading if Trump wins this election. Whereas if he had picked Burgum or more of a business Republican, I think in 2028, you could see this reverting. So, you know, this only happens like, I don't know, once or twice a century that you get a realignment, but it seems like we're living through one of those.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that the business Republicans could ever come back at this point?
If Trump loses, maybe. Yeah. But if he wins, I think Vance is a pretty big shoe-in for 2028. And I think the populists have a big edge there.
And what are your thoughts on the theocratic faction of the base? Because they seem to have a lot less power in this election than I've seen them have historically.
Yeah, although I guess they already won in some ways by getting Roe v. Wade repealed.
Yeah.
So I think there is a bit of a pendulum swinging back now, where Trump got on the platform now saying he removed the part saying we want a national federal legislative ban on abortion. And so, they're definitely, sorry.
I think that was really astute of him. I mean, I think he's right.
Agreed.
I got you guys the win of the century. Now I don't have to do anything else for you.
And it should be a state-by-state issue. And so I agree. I think that's smart politically and policy-wise. But you're right. The religious faction is losing power. I mean, people in the U.S. are less religious now, including conservatives. So just the trends line up with that.
I mean, even Catholics are getting tons of abortions and using birth control. So what's up with that? One thing I really wanted to ask you, though, just as we wrap up discussion of like political betting and betting odds, I'm really interested in the effect when it comes to education and learning with kids that pre-testing has on knowledge acquisition. You know, like when you test yourself on a subject before and you're like, well, I don't know the answer, maybe it's this. Then later when you're learning it, you're like really paying attention. And now that you've been, you know, like you said, you lost money on like, you know, Biden dropping out of the race, you know, you are involved in making these predictions, you know, you're playing the game. I'm really curious over time how this has changed your consumption of knowledge. Like, have you changed the way that you're looking at information? What are your news sources and how are you making these calculations in your head? Like, has your process changed, I guess? Because it's kind of hard to like explain how you're internally thinking and how it's different, but I'm curious.
I do check my own website. So when there's something big going on, that's the first thing I go to. I still also look at the polls to then make my own judgment about whether I think the bettors are right.
Which polls do you like? Which do you trust?
Well, I use the Real Clear average for the most part. And then I look within the polls. So if you have a New York Times poll one week that has Trump up 2 and the next week they have Trump up 5, that probably says something because the New York Times didn't change internally.
Oh, so directionality. Yes.
Right,
oh, interesting. Right. Very smart.
Yeah. No. So that's my personal strategy, reading the polls. But yeah, the bettors are doing the same thing and adding even more fancy and intelligent stuff sometimes. So.
What's an example of something slightly more fancy that they do now? I'm very curious.
Well, I mean, the models get very complex. So Nate Silver has his public model, but people who are trading like big money on these things definitely have their own private models. It's, regression analysis, different variables, all this stuff.
Getting super mathy on it. Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love how slow some of the polls could be. Hold on. I just checked out where 538 to win is right now, and it just says forecast suspended. I think they're the last minute change in candidate. The final question I wanted to ask you on this stuff is, you used to be a Fox News worker in the days of the old Republican Party. Can you describe sort of culturally what it's been like in terms of the people to see the shift in the Republican Party that has happened since that period?
I think definitely a lot of people have shifted, and I think the big thing is Republicans at some point were kind of the party of the establishment, like protecting the institutions and all this. And I think in the 2010s, the institutions really kind of turned against them. They started, banning Republicans from social media. The university started firing them, all this stuff. And they kind of felt, okay, so we're not defending the institutions anymore. What are we doing? And I think a lot of people had this kind of reconversion to, okay, we're going to either take this over, as DeSantis is trying to do in Florida with the universities, but some kind of more interventionist, more populist thing. And so that's the big shift I've seen, and I think that's the cause of the shift. And
that's really interesting. Well, and so you hang out with a lot of techie crowds and stuff like that. Have you seen their attitudes shifting recently? I mean, I would say personally, I have. It used to be that Republican would keep you from getting hired, and now it's avant-garde.
Yeah, definitely in the last 2 years. My personal theory is that Musk buying Twitter caused a lot of this vibe shift, as it's referred to, because so many tech CEOs and journalists are on there, they're getting their information there, and we like to think of ourselves as above algorithms, but we're not. So they're suddenly getting fed all this viral content and articles that they weren't seeing before. Before they were getting, only the Jack Dorsey approved hashtags, and they don't even notice this, but suddenly their information diet's totally different. And you have tech people endorsing Trump. It's a very different vibe.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I mean, I'd say that now is in tech circles, being Republicans, the new trans. It's out there and weird, but accepted, which it was not in tech circles 5-6 years ago when I was, first in this stuff. Well, this is fantastic. It's been any final thoughts that you wanted to have on betting odds or anything like that, or the election cycle right now?
I guess the last thing I'll say, there's a lot of money on these markets. There's over 200 million on Poly Market.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. Just on the presidential election, there's over 50 million on Predict It, tens of millions on Betfair. This is a big industry. And
bigger than ever, right? Presumably this is a lot more than the last cycle.
The last cycle was big too. I think by the time the cycle wraps up, it'll be bigger than ever. But yeah, these are efficient markets with these kinds of markets, and they give good information.
Yeah, that'd be a very hard market to manipulate.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are they legal? How have these companies, did they need to register as betting markets, or how'd they get away with that?
It's a whole mishmash. So some of them are in the UK. Predict It got grandfathered in, which the government is trying to take away that status. They're fighting it in court. Poly Market doesn't accept Americans. And but they're crypto based, so anyone in the world can kind of use that. So so there are all sorts of ways these places are still running without completely running afoul of the regulators.
Wow.
That's really cool. Well, it's been great having you on. We'd love to have you on again. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. This has been great. Great talking with you.